I've always had a knowing of God. It's always been there. My parents always sent us to church, even as little children, so my sisters and myself. And I remember we'd be dressed up to the hilt and we'd have little bags on our hand and off we go down to the local church, and we would just walk to the local church. And that's what we used to do nowadays. It was great. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. And look, I had really kind, loving parents. We were very fortunate that way. And they were keen for us to go to church, go to Sunday school. So that was really great. When I got a little bit older, and I would stay at girlfriend's place at primary school age years, come Sunday morning, same routine, we get up, get dressed, and go to the local church, sometimes walking several blocks to get there, but that's just what we did. Then when I was getting married, I was speaking to the minister about marriage counselling before we were getting married, and he invited us. At this stage, we were now living in the Riverland, so he invited us to his church. So I said, yes, that would be great. I would really love that. But before we were married, I commenced nursing. So with the night shift and the shift work, going to church went by the by until, like I said, we got married, and then we were invited back to church. So I was attending church, and my husband was actually quite the opposite. He wasn't at all interested. And I've discovered a couple of times when I was falling asleep reading my Bible in bed, I wake up the next day, the Bible was actually gone, and that happened a couple of times. And I found that it was a very persecuted time in my life because he was really anti, and with two children growing up, it sort of became very difficult, and he even threatened to pull the children out of the church and trying to make life as difficult as possible, trying to go against everything that I was trying to do. So anyway, I decided to commence the Bible study with the church. I was starting to learn a bit about God. I commenced this Bible study with the church, and the leader started talking about having a personal relationship with Jesus, about giving your life to God, giving your life to Jesus, being born again, having a personal relationship. I thought, what is she talking about? It was just, I'd never heard this before. It was so strange. I thought, I've got to talk to this lady urgently afterwards. It was just so weird. I'd never heard this before. And I spoke to her about it, and she said, well, yeah, that's the way it is. You need to say the sinner's prayer, be born again, if you want to have a personal relationship with Jesus and walk in his ways. She said, that's your ticket to heaven. And that was the pivotal point in my life when I really realised in God's economy, going to church means really absolutely nothing. Having the head knowledge is nothing. It's really about having that heart knowledge and that heart attitude and having a heart after God. So I said the sinner's prayer, and yep, I was a Christian. It felt really, truly amazing, giving my life to Jesus, and now knowing I had the Holy Spirit living within me. Look, he really gave me this amazing peace. It was just incredible. And strength, the spiritual strength he gave me, because of all the persecution I was getting. My husband was such an atheist through and through, and it was such a hard time, a really long, hard battle, 2 young children. It's so hard to portray, what you need to go through. And God was he was so good how he graciously gave me so much strength. Admittedly, I wasn't perfect. I would argue with him from time to time, trying to explain about God to him, wishing there was a way to get him to come to know Jesus, but it wasn't so. And I realised that it was really better not to waste my time talking to him and just letting Jesus and the Holy Spirit work within me and give me the strength and teach me to grow. That was wonderful, and that's what I really needed. And then after, 5 years of marriage, I think, my husband was 30 years of age. He contracted level 4 malignant melanoma, and within 18 months he had passed. It was very difficult for the children because they're only primary school age, so it was really hard. And I felt the best thing I could do was to be with my parents. So I decided to come from South Australia and come over to Coffs Harbour so I could be with my family and be around people that I knew and that I could love and someone to be close to. So it was a bit of a dark time when I came here. I was very careful to look after my children. They were going to school. But I just got involved with the wrong type of people, the wrong characters. I got involved in relationships I shouldn't have got involved in, and putting up with abuse like I did for the years of my first marriage. And I felt I was just in the same sort of routine as I was with my first husband. It was yes, just the abuse and the way I was getting treated. And I need to get out of this. I need to get out of this whole rut of being treated like I'm being treated from adults. So I thought enough is enough. So I was able to get rid of those relationships. And in the meantime, I'd fallen pregnant, and he was very keen to pay for me to go to Brisbane to have the baby disposed of before it was too old. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do this. I know it's not God's will to do that sort of thing, and I was not going to do it. So I had the child, and we eventually moved over here to be with my family in the Coffs Harbour area. I then thought I need to get back into church and get my life back into order again. So the next 8 years I was involved in music in the church. I played the flute, I played the organ, I went to Bible studies, ladies' seminars, and because of all the abuse and all the hurt and the pain of the past, I went to women's conferences. I got so much healing. It's amazing, you know, how the healing that God can give you with all your hurt and pain in your past. It's just so wonderful what God can do in your life. It was truly, truly amazing. And just with falling off the rails and Him guiding you slowly, eventually getting you back on track again and getting you back on that straight and narrow track where you needed to be. And I just felt so much better because and obviously getting closer to Jesus, having that personal relationship and growing in God, it was what I needed to do. So that was the best thing I could have done. Then 8 years later, I was about to, I met a man, and he was very kind, very loving, and very respectful towards me. I thought, this is the man I need to marry. But there was a catch. He was not a Christian. And I know from all the studies and everything I had done that that was not God's will. God prefers us to abide by His rules and regulations. He doesn't have a lot, but the ones He does have, He has them there for a reason. And I just felt so good because I was getting treated so right. I just felt I needed to marry this man. So that's what I chose to do. And I still remember the pastor's wife saying to me just before we got married, Jenny, you cannot alter a man down the aisle. And I said, yes, I know, but he is so easygoing. I thought I could change him. When we got married, I thought I could change him and he's going to become a Christian. But quite not so. It's quite the opposite. When they're so easygoing, they don't need anything. They don't see the need for anything. So we got married, and I can safely say that I can travel to church. I don't lose my Bibles, they don't disappear. It's a lot of comfort, and there's a lot of peace about that side of it. The only thing is, in the marriage, there's just not that extra spiritual connection with your husband, because he's not a Christian, and being able to go together to church and pray together and have that extra wonderful time together as a Christian couple. That's the only bit that's missing. When God has His rules and regulations, not to be hard and to be mean and to be nasty to us, or just for the sake of having rules and regulations. God has certain stipulations He likes us to follow for a certain reason. And that is so because I've had to live with those consequences all my life now, of those, not mistakes, but maybe not following God's rules and not God's ways. That's what you live with for the rest of your life. And also, God has those rules and regulations so He can give you life, and He can give it to you in abundance. I love teaching Sunday school to the preschoolers at the church. It's so much fun. I get so much pleasure out of it. And I really enjoy using online media platforms. I think for little children to have a big impact on little children's minds, I think using that media form, the visual tool, I think it helps for them to really understand the message or the lesson that we're teaching from week to week. And I often have parents come up to me and say, Jenny, you wouldn't read about it. I'd never heard my child sing such and such a song, and out of the blue they started singing a Christian song or something, and they go, where did I hear that? Oh, yes, of course, Sunday school. I just love it. It's a lot of fun. I feel that's my forte spiritually. I don't actually mainly get to hear the sermons because I'm teaching Sunday school, so I listen to them online. And what I really like about the teaching is that it's biblically based. It's not just a sermon of entertainment that somebody wants to hear. It's biblically based, and it's spiritually what we need to hear for our spiritual growth. And that's what I really like about the sermons. And the other thing is, for a fairly small church that we are, we have quite a few gifts and talents within the church, which I think is wonderful. And if we are going to put our mind to doing something, we're able to achieve it because of all the variety of gifts and talents that are within the church. And if somebody has a need, look, people just rally around, run people here and there, help them out, lots of prayer. We have a great prayer chain within the church. And if somebody needs a meal, and it's not just praying, I'll pray for you. It's doing the word, not just saying, yes, I will pray for you, but it's actually doing something physically as well. So they might take them a meal. We've had several people going through some really hard times with different situations and things, with illnesses. And so many people rallied for them with meals and to help them out in other ways, maybe to help them in the house. And that's what I like about it. And that's what God says, as you're doing it for them, you're doing it for me. And I think that's very important, and it's great to see that in our church.